Hello and welcome to At Life in Guatemala. This week it's just me. I'm Deb and normally Brian's here. But today I wanted to make a video that's information on research that I did personally before we moved to Guatemala. You know, the title of this is, Are You Ready to Be a Guatemalan Expat? And that covers a wide range of opinions because I'm not really talking about cultural differences. I'm not talking about wanting to leave the United States. I'm not even talking about, do you have enough money? I'm talking about, are you prepared for what it takes to make a permanent move to another country? And in this case, Guatemala. And so I want to share with you a lot of the things that I did before we moved here. First of all, we visited many times. We knew the area we wanted to go to. We knew people already. We had an idea of the cost that was involved in living here already because we had been here often enough and gone shopping and gone to the grocery store and looked at houses and things of that nature. And that's information you're going to need because I see a lot of questions on various Facebook expat pages that we are members of. And a lot of times they're, how do I find a home? Should I rent or should I buy? Should I take everything with me or should I buy everything in Guatemala? I mean, just a myriad of questions from many different people, all thinking about making this move and changing their lives. Now, we've been down here, it was 7 years the first week of October, and the first 2 years in San Marcos, the department of San Marcos, and the city of San Marcos. And then the last 5 years have been here in Quetzaltenango, known by its Mayan name of Xela. Before we moved, we started visiting once or twice a year from 2011 until we came here in 2018. So we made a number of trips. And when we made the decision that we're going to do this, we had to figure out, what do we want to try and bring with us? What do we want to try and buy in Guatemala? And we knew we were going to drive down here. And so we tried to minimize the amount of things we had to bring. And as it is, we filled the back of a Chevy Traverse and a small travel trailer to bring the things that we did bring. And the first thing that I did when we knew we were going to make this move is I got on the Facebook pages and got some information on various immigration lawyers, because I wanted to know what I needed. We already knew when we came down here, we were staying. We weren't coming down to be tourists or long-time tourists. We were going to become residents, and we knew that. And so I wanted to be prepared in advance. So I had a number of emails back and forth with an immigration lawyer and a couple of phone calls. So I already had a whole list of all the documentation I would need for us to become full-time residents once we arrived. And because I had that information, which, by the way, I'm not going to give you this list because that is constantly changing. You will want to get hold of one of a number of different immigration lawyers that are suggested. I will try to get you some names and some contacts in the comments section below, the description section below. But you're going to want to know currently, what do I need to do if I want to become a full-time resident, and what kind of residency works for me. We got something called a rentista residency because we didn't have a pension coming in yet. So we were only living off of investment income, and we had to be able to prove a certain amount of income coming in monthly. That was not something we earned here in Guatemala. They also have a pensionada, which is if you have Social Security and pension coming in, and you have to prove that. There are a number of work visas. If you think you're going to have a job down here, you need to contact who you're going to work for to help you find work visas. There's ministry visas. And I don't know a lot about all these different visas. That's why I'm telling you, get hold of a good immigration lawyer to answer your questions. What I had to do is I needed to get a lot of different paperwork, our marriage certificate, our birth certificates, proof of our income, our fingerprints, our background check. And even though I had the ability to get all that, I still had to get all of it notarized and then all of it apostilled. Now, until this time, I didn't really know what an apostille was. And in essence, it's basically proof that your notary is legal. I mean, that's kind of how I took it. And at the time, through the Michigan Secretary of State, I was able to get each page apostilled for $1 a page. So it didn't cost much. And I have a friend that's a notary, so I didn't really have to pay for that. And because I worked at a church where we did background checks, I was able to run my own background check. So that didn't cost anything. And because I know a number of police officers, I was able to get both a local and an FBI fingerprint card taken care of all before I left the United States. So I had every piece of paper that I needed before we moved. And then when we moved and we arrived in Guatemala on October 7th, I had all my paperwork to this lawyer by October 19th. By first week of February of 2019, we had full-time residency. It doesn't always go that fast. It depends on how prepared you are. How ready are you for this? Some other things that we chose to do is I flew down in August. We actually left Michigan on October 1st. I flew down to to Guatemala City and then took a bus to San Marcos. And while I was in San Marcos, I managed to open a bank account, which is not always the easiest. I got hold of a friend who has accounts at what they call GET, G-E-T, here in Guatemala. And with my passport, I was able to open a checking account. And then I went house hunting. I found a house and in our price range, and we had to get a lawyer for the lease. I was able to secure the rental of the home and sign the lease. So we had a place to come to when we were driving here. I did go out and I purchased one bed and a refrigerator and a stove, and then borrowed some plastic chairs so that when we arrived, we had a place to sleep and sit, and if we wanted to put some things in the refrigerator to snack, we had that. And I left the third week of August. I was only here for a week. And then we left Michigan to drive down the first week of October, and it took us 5 days. So we arrived in Guatemala on the evening of October 5th, 2018. But we already had a place to stay. Now you might have asked, well, how do I find a place to stay? I'm going to tell you, that is tough here. Unless you're in Antigua or the city, Guatemala City, it's hard to really find good places to shop for rental homes or purchase homes. The best thing that I could find right now is Facebook Marketplace, walking down the street and looking at signs that say something's for rent, and they may not always be correct, and word of mouth. Friends, do you know of something? Do you know somebody? I know that sounds like a hard way to go, but that's just kind of the reality of finding places to live down here. When we moved to Xela to look for a place to live, we stayed for a week in a friend's spare team condominium and went out and just searched and looked at Facebook Marketplace. Now, once we found somebody to work with on Facebook Marketplace, they had contacts to other places we didn't know about, and that helped. And so it's not a complete lost cause, but it is difficult, and be prepared for that. And start looking now while you're still in the U.S. Start looking at Facebook Marketplace in the area of Guatemala you want to live. Are there things? What are the costs of those? What are you prepared for? So this is a lot of research that had to be done, knowing in advance what we needed to move down here. And that included, because we were driving and bringing our dogs, what did I need to drive through Mexico? Did I need insurance, separate insurance? What are the customs reporting in Mexico to drive through with a lot of stuff? What do I have to do to bring the dogs? What kind of USDA stamps did I need on their paperwork? So I had all that information, but it always changes. That's why I'm not going to give you specifics today, but I am going to tell you what to look for. Find out, do you have your car paid for? Can it be a leased car? Or can you be making payments? What does it take if you're going to drive? If I'm going to fly, and am I bringing animals? What does it take to get my pet here? Because when we visit the States, we have to pay for another vet exam and an export exam out of the States to bring our dog home to Guatemala. And that's $400 plus a plane ticket. So I want you to take all of that into consideration when you're talking about bringing pets with you here. We would never have left our pets home, but we did learn how to get them here. Little things, the border crossings. Coming into Mexico was easy. Going through Mexico, in our case, we had an adventure, and there's a whole video we have on that, but we made it without any major problems. We just had some surprises. And then arriving and going through the Guatemalan border where we went at the El Carmen border, if you don't know where the passport office is, you'll walk right by and not get your passport stamped. And I'm going to tell you what, it's so easy to do, and I've heard horror stories of people doing it. So find out, what do I have to do to leave Mexico? What do I have to do to get into Guatemala? Coming by plane, it's a lot easier. So those are some things that we had to research and discover, and I'm hoping that we can help you avoid some of those pitfalls. The next thing I want to tell you about that's very important, because you're going to get all kinds of opinions on this. What do I bring? What do I leave? What do I buy when I get there? This is a very personal decision, and you will get people that say, you can buy everything here. And you can, but not always exactly what you might have when you're leaving the States. I brought my very good all-clad pots and pans. I brought my very nice chef's knives. And I didn't bring my silverware. We sold almost everything before we came because we were driving down. Brian brought a lot of tools, and had we known we were going to have to buy a trailer to bring some stuff, he probably would have kept even more tools. Yes, you can buy all kinds of tools here. Not all the same quality of what he had. He had a very high quality tool sets, and lots of them. I mean, we had a barn filled with his workshop. You can buy towels and sheets, but I will be honest with you, they are not as high of quality as what you're probably going to get in the States for the price. You can buy, there's a lot of, we have a Sears here, and we have a store called Samaco, which is very similar to a Home Depot, and you can buy household goods and nice ones, but I think for the price, you're not getting nearly the quality. So is that important to you? Can you use a cheap towel and be happy? I like a big fluffy plush towel, and I don't want to pay $100 for it. And I'm not telling you that's what it costs. I'm just exaggerating a little bit, but so we did bring down some of our own bed sheets and things of that. Housing furniture we bought here, and there's a variety of ways to buy it. You can get furniture made. We ended up buying ours at a couple of different stores, and we're happy with it. It's not, it's not the world's best furniture. We have a couple of reclining chairs. They're not Lazy Boy brand or anything like that, but they work and they're comfortable. So you can buy that kind of stuff. Small appliances, kitchen appliances, you can buy them here, but they are more expensive. I am so glad I brought my own Instant Pot. And even I have a nice coffee machine. I'm glad because it would have cost me a lot more to replace my coffee machine. There's lots of coffee makers. You can buy them, but it would have cost me more. So make some decisions. What's important to me to bring down? What's important? What doesn't matter? How much minimalist do I want to be? Because we did start selling things probably out of our house and selling our house 6 months before we moved. And that way we would have time to get rid of everything. And that included my dishes and my silverware and our furniture. And we went for months without a dining room table because that sold pretty quickly. And a lot of our living room furniture, we were sitting on just folding chairs. I'm not telling everybody this is what you should do. I'm telling you to be prepared. What kind of things should I look at in advance before I make this move to make it easier for you? And I'm hoping by sharing our experience and the things I had to research, because I did have to find out what's the best route to take. And there's a Facebook page called On the Road in Mexico. Lots of great information on the best route to take, what is dangerous, what's not dangerous, places to stay along your route, best borders to cross, because that can change too, depending on the climate. And I'm not talking about the temperature, but what's going on in Mexico during the time if you decide to drive through. And there's a lot of ways to get to places here, and a lot of people that will help you, a lot of transportation, a lot of people that have buses and trucks and things that can help you if you're going to fly in and you have 6 or 8 bags of luggage. So don't worry if you decide you want to fly and just bring your clothes or you buy everything else here. You can get here and get people to get you where you're going. Not a problem whatsoever. And there's so many places to buy things between Guatemala City, if you're living down near the city in Antigua, here in Quetzaltenango, which is up in the upper Western Highlands and the surrounding area. There's enough big stores here. Then if you get further north into the country in the Tenango, you've got some big stores there. I do not know a lot about the upper jungle area where Caal is and Payten and that. I'm not real familiar with that, so I can't really help you there. But the research I did made the move less complicated. Now, another thing that I'm not very familiar with, but there are lots of people that have done this, they sent shipping containers. They wanted their furniture. They wanted their appliances, all their tools. And so they found some companies that could bring everything over by shipping container. So that possibility does exist for you. But from everything I have read from people that have done that, you do need to get some prices and find out, what does everything include? Does it include the going through customs? Are they going to take care of that for you? And that's kind of stuff that it's going to make a difference in your cost to become an expat here in Guatemala. Now, speaking of customs, something that I did, and I'm not telling you this is necessary, but it made our drive through Mexico and coming into Guatemala with all of our things in our trailer and our car much easier. I made a list basically of everything I had. Now, not 5 knives, 4 glasses, 2 computers, but I made a list: kitchen items, bedding, sheets and pillows and things, and 2 computers and a laptop, anyway, I had a whole list of everything, and all Brian's tools, different kind of tools. If it was a saw, if he had 3 saws and 5 hammers, which that's not correct, but I'm just giving you an idea. But I had a list of our items, and then I had the value in one column in US dollars, the value next to it in Mexican pesos, and then also in Guatemalan quetzales. And this way, as we came through the border and they were looking at a car stuffed with stuff and a trailer covered, because it was open air, so we had to cover it with a tarp, I was able to hand them the list, and they could look at the list, and they took the tarp off and looked and kind of scanned and opened the back of the car and kind of scanned and looked at everything match what it did. And we didn't have any problem. They took our value that we had for our customs costs to come in, and it wasn't a problem. And we got right through customs in Mexico, and we got right through customs in Guatemala also. So I don't know if having that list made a difference, but it's something I chose to do that I believe made it easier for us to travel without issue. What else did I do that you should know about? I think that kind of covers the preparation. So really some big keys, just to go back and give you some points, the high points. Know where you want to go and find out more about it before you get there. Know what you want to bring with you, what's important, and what can you leave behind, and what would you choose to leave behind. And if you just ask. I'm going to put some of these Facebook groups in the description box too. You can go online and ask, what would it cost me to buy this if I buy it down there? People will probably be very helpful. Just like every Facebook group, you're going to get a handful of people that are going to, have some snide remark, just ignore them and just work with the people that are helpful. But there's a lot of folks that will help get you through this transition. And I'll tell you what, in the beginning, I had moments where I talked about wanting to return to the States, because I also want to tell you, be prepared for a different culture. And I don't mean people saying, oh, I know it's different, because you might know it's different, but you're choosing to live somewhere, not visit somewhere. And if you can't handle something, or something bothers you a little bit on your visit, it might bother you a lot when you're living there. And just small things that you don't think are going to be a problem, but I want you to take it into consideration. The other thing is, if you're thinking you're going to move down here and get a job, that is not the easiest thing to do, and it depends on the type of visa. Many expats here work remotely and online with a U.S. or another U.S. company, or a company that's actually stationed in another country. Because to work down here, you have to legally, let me put it this way, to work down here legally, you have to have a work visa. You can't just say, I'm going to retire down there and get a part-time job. It's not that easy. It doesn't work that way. But if you have access to teaching English online, or you have a remote work with a company that you're acquainted with, that's great. There's also a handful of U.S.-based schools here, and they will hire non-Guatemalans and expats, and you can work through them because they're U.S.-based schools and they have a different way of paying you. And so a lot of people do work and teach English, or teach in an English-speaking school if you've got a teaching degree or experience. So there are opportunities, but definitely know that before you come. So that's all I wanted to share with you today, is things to know before you come, things to research before you come. And like I said, I didn't want to give you exact specifics on anything, because one of the things we've learned in all of our time here in Guatemala, both visiting and living here, nothing stays the same. And sometimes it's not even the same between two different places. There are people here that will tell you, oh, I opened a bank account really easy with such and such a bank. Somebody else went to the same bank, but in a different place, and couldn't open their bank account. Some people ask about, what if I want to have a driver's license or importing my car? Technically, your U.S. driver's license is good with your passport, and there is a specified amount of time that is valid, but there are people here who have been driving on that for years. They didn't ever become a resident, so they never got their driver's license here in Guatemala, because you have to have residency to get a driver's license, which means you get their national card, which is called a DPE, or in English, DPI, before you can even apply for a driver's license. And these are things that some people here are living on a tourist visa, and they leave every 90 days, or they stay for 90 days and then extend by going to the city for 90 days, and then they have to start over again. We didn't want to have the hassle of constantly extending our visa. Plus, knowing we were going to stay here, we wanted to do it, the right way. We're going to stay here. We're going to be residents. So let's get a residency visa. I can't make that decision for you. It's what we chose to do. But know which kind you need, and know what kind of paperwork you need before you leave the U.S. It will make your life so much easier, because there are horror stories about people that want to get their residency after they're here. How can I get my fingerprint card? How can I get my FBI background check? Can I do it through the embassy? Oh my gosh, now I got to fly home because I need everything apostilled, or I can't find my marriage license or my birth certificate. I mean, do it first. Look into it. Find out, are you ready to be a Guatemalan expat? And if you are, come on down and enjoy your life here in Guatemala, because we sure do. Thanks for being part of Life in Guatemala.